Welcome, everybody. This is Neuropa.
How's it going?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. How are you, Andreas? How is everyone? I hope you're all
Pretty
doing
good.
as good as possible, as supremely well as possible.
It's beautiful outside right now. It's been pretty good for us over here.
Yeah, it's getting warm also in Central Europe. Whatever that means.
Today, Lightspeed is the conversation with the mascot Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Who's one of the greatest portal jumping. What is he? A marsupial? What are they? What are hedgehogs? Are they mammals? Hedgehog. They're not, right? What are they? It's a what's it called?
Spiny mammal.
Erinacine. I think that's right. Yeah, pretty cool little characters. Look at this guy, right? Can you imagine a giant hedgehog like the size of a VW Beetle or something? And it could just like it would probably torture you. You know, they just seem like really violent little critters. But this hedgehog can run super fast, jump through golden portals, these rings that take them, and just that's the point of the rings are. As he jumps through the portals in the movies, and they just came out with the Sonic Shadows movie, which was fantastic. If you haven't
Is
seen it,
it jumping through them? Because all that I ever know of Sonic from like the Sega Master System game is that you're collecting them. I'm not sure.
yeah,
He's
well,
jumping
you're collecting
across
them
borders.
because originally Sonic comes from a weird portal dimension where he's raised by the great owl who sacrifices herself so that Sonic can escape, and he jumps through a portal as he's being chased down by, Dr. Roboto, who was played by Jim Carrey.
Although
And
it's again a story about AI and transhumanism. Only now it's coming
oh,
back to me.
super extreme. Dr. Robotnik. I'm sorry, Robotnik. I apologize. Robotnik. So everyone who played Sega growing up was really offended just now, and I don't blame them. Yeah, he builds all the sort of cyborg mecha suits. He has a jellyfish in space. Is this weird thing that he creates? In the newest one, he travels through time. He meets his own grandfather, and his grandfather and him work together to try to get Sonic. There's a military experiment where the military has kidnapped Shadow. Shadow is this dark kind of evil, hedgehog, but he's not really evil. He just has like a terrible backstory because he was similarly kidnapped and raised by the military, and he was trained in this lab underground in the desert where he was an MK Ultra child along with the granddaughter or daughter of the professor or inventor or scientist or doctor, the MK Ultra doctor that he's working with in the lab. And so he's fully in love with this girl, Shadow Sonic girlfriend. Yeah. Where's she at? Make sure got moderate safe search on because it can get pretty weird out there. Shadow movie. I mean, basically, it's lore, it's canon. I don't know what to tell you. Where's the girl? Dude, is this it? There it is, right here. So he's got this girlfriend, and she gets murdered. And when she
Why
dies,
why
that's
is this again like the Anakin Star Wars story? And there was some other reference I just had in my mind. It's always the same thing. All right, the Command and Conquer with Yuri's Revenge. The communist evil guy and whatever.
blue pill, red pill. I definitely go for Shadow in a lot of ways, but Sonic is pretty base. You gotta, there's nothing wrong with him. But I mean, it's a weird movie, man, because he's in love with this girl. It's like this human girl's in love with it. Like the whole thing with the love story and how Shadow sacrifices himself. And like, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I don't think he's dead, but like they try to infer that, right? Obviously, they want to say that he sacrifices himself in this whole Jesus martyrdom thing to save the universe, which is pretty impressive. But I imagine they're going to leave that open for like he went through a ring at the last second into another portal because it's freaking Sonic. That's the way the movie works, But also, they did the same thing earlier in the movie because the what's his name, the Donut Man, or the what's his like Sonic father adopted, what's his name, dude, what's his name, dude, this guy, right? He's this guy plays basically like the adopted father of Sonic the Hedgehog, and he nearly gets killed. His heart gets stopped basically, and he's like lying there dying. And he's brought into the hospital. And so for a kid, you process him dying, but then he comes back. Then he's alive like 20 minutes later. But he's dead for 20 minutes for a kid. Like if you're 5 years old and you're seeing this movie, you're like, you just saw a guy die, And then all of a sudden he's like not dead, which is cool because he went to the hospital and he's okay again. Which is
Of
like,
course, that's what usually happens, right? You go to the hospital and then you're alive again. Oh, how I wish that were true.
oh, the training of this show is it's immense, man. But I do like it. I mean, it's a good. I honestly think the Sonic movie was really good. I liked it more than the Minecraft movie, and I thought the Minecraft movie was great. But there was just so much to the Sonic movie. The Shadow movie felt so dark, with all the death and all of the struggle. This kind of this the struggle was really real. The pathos is really real, and the martyrdom and the masculine urge to martyr, to self-sacrifice, for the greater common good. It's really good. The way they did that movie was, impressive. Sonic is Saturn and Robotnik is Jupiter. Maybe that'd be it kind of makes sense because of the grandfather. If you watch Shadow, the whole thing with Dr. Robotnik's grandfather, and his grandfather's the true evil one, and he essentially, like, Dr. Robotnik is almost the good guy at certain points in the third movie. He's at least allying with Sonic in order to stop Shadow, or then to work with Shadow when they start to realize they should. It's very much like, the utilitarian good for the evil character. It's like, this is the greater self-serving choice, is to sustain keep the universe existing so that I can be the one to steal, and if it's gone, there's nothing left to rob. There's a meme about how Sonic is a reference to Zoroastrianism. I remember that one. Hold on. Because there is something there, like hedgehogs in Persia, and there's definitely something about it. It's not just a meme. Where's the picture? There's actually like a full explanation about it. It's pretty deep, actually, when you start to look into it. And you see, like, here's the Sonic logo.
Yeah, I think that's the game I played, even the original one, but there was no Tails in it, I think, so I was kind of sad.
Well, that's like the sequel. It's like Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Sonic and Tails, Sonic CD, Sonic Pinball, etc. But yeah, you can see, like, here's Sonic inside of the wings, and here's Zoroaster, right? And there's a whole other thing with Zoroaster and the rings, right? So yeah, the ring holding is a major thing. And also, hedgehogs are a sacred animal in the Avesta. The ancient Zoroastrianism believed that the Ahura Mazda created hedgehogs to combat infestation of ants. In ancient Iran, people kept hedgehogs as pets because the hedgehogs ate ants, spiders, and other insects, right? So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, Jim Carrey did come out of retirement. He said that he wasn't going to make another movie, and he's like, actually, I need the money. So he did it. Literally, that was his response. Why he did it. Yeah, I like Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, let me pull back a little bit of Sonic, Shadow, Robotnik, the Great Owl, Bohemian Grove, and Sonic the Hedgehog.
I know about the owl. It's crazy. There were different reasons why I chose this, but of course, everything comes back to the same story, you want it or not. So Xirtus Amoeba, thank you so much, has created not only a YouTube channel, which is always linked in the description, but also has an Odyssey channel. So everyone who's on Odyssey, anyone who is not, definitely check it out, because there's quite a few documentaries, tidbits, movies, whatever else that YouTube is not maybe so happy with hosting, that you can definitely find on Odyssey. So it's a great platform, I think, still. And maybe even the most free speech platform I know, to be honest, in terms of, limitations which you may have on different other platforms. So yeah, both are linked.
I'm trying so hard to just log in so I can follow the page. I just want to follow Amoeba. Okay, hold on a second.
Oh yeah, it's okay.
I'll get there.
We have time for that.
All right, so we go back here and then to Xirtus Amoeba, sweet, and then follow, and then turn on notifications, sweet, and then I'll like one of his videos. Excellent. Yeah, everybody, I love Xirtus Amoeba and what he's doing. Actually, if you go to Xirtus Amoeba on X, he's been doing some verticals, which are really cool. He's got some clips here. Here's a vertical that he put out that's really nice. So if you're on a phone, you can watch these. Like, I think he's gonna. I've asked him if he has an Instagram channel. I assume he does for some reason, but I just haven't looked at it yet. But just looking at the verticals, it's like if he's doing vertical videos, like this is gonna end up on social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok and things like that. And that's really exciting to me because I feel like the more people get to see the clips, the happier I am.
Yeah. And hopefully hopefully the viewers too. Yeah, I recently saw a clip he made of me as well, and since I'm trying to, how should I say, use certain phraseology, also not to trigger certain things. I was surprised how often I said whatever and whatever, right?
Oh, I had to bring this up. So there's this thing going around right now with a lot of views, which is that this woman refused a NASA internship because she doesn't like the Trump administration. So I posted, NASA will soon be filled with QAnon flat earthers, and I don't think people knew that I was saying that in a positive light. You know what I mean? Got a lot of these. Some people did, but I think some other people were like pretty upset about it. Pretty much. They thought I was like upset about it. Okay.
Well, if they need the talent, what to do?
All right. The list, we've also got the Xirtus Amoeba YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed to that with the bell ring.
Yes, please.
That's growing right now. I think they're gonna let it be like a promoted channel. Like it's a nice, sweet little channel doing like nice things. So there could be something to that in the future. So yeah. What about Gravitas? WION. What's this all about?
No, this is just about the monopoly case against
Ooh.
Alphabet. So the platform we're
so
at right now. And of course, it's always more fun to listen to someone with the Indian speaking voice. And only recently I learned why Indians speak this way, because I don't know the exact term of the position of the tongue, which you have when speaking Hindi and maybe other Indian dialects, I'm not sure. And that's why Indians speaking English always has this particular sound, which I cannot possibly, recreate as good as you or as David Ewing Jr. or some other people can. But yeah, it's always more fun to listen to, even though that channel is also completely mainstream and pushing similar narratives.
So the ruling opens the doors for prosecutors to actually seek structural remedies, and that includes.
I wonder if there's something where because Jamaicans have that kind of rising action in their tongue too. So that's interesting. Yeah, so this is exciting. Everybody, we're all rooting for the antitrust. Hooray, antitrust. Sorry, I guess I'm just being frank. Cards on the table. It'll be really cool to watch every single intellectual property and business, every single business that is run by Alphabet just kind of be shuffled into the hands of new oligarchs, as Raf said earlier, basically. And then we get to meet the new oligarchs and figure out who our new masters for the slaves
because,
are. And cool.
Could anyone believe that even when Google started, it became so huge? I wasn't that deep into it. I only then heard, whatever.
It had to. It was that it's getting
big, and then already they started buying everyone. And latest, when they did the whole AdSense thing, you really want to tell me that regulators or whatever weren't aware it's a monopoly? And anyhow, it's merely a government front. So just, like you said,
I think it was an intentional brief monopoly. It was designed to be a monopoly for a while.
Certainly. Yeah, that's all I'm saying, because it would be hilarious if only now they discover, oh, it's actually a monopoly. Oh, really? Really? You didn't realize that for the past 15 years. So, yeah.
They picked the wrong side. That was basically what it came down to. They were a military industrial complex that was too invested in the other government, and they're not going to be rewarded for that. It looks like they're going to basically be torn apart.
You really think it's a partisan thing on that level? Maybe
I think it was in a lot of ways, because they were involved with the censorship against the Trump administration and the pushing for the DNC and all these things. And so they've talked a lot about how they were like a war company that does work with the military, and they're very keen on working with the Obama administration. They're well positioned in that, and those people are not just on the outs, with the new government. They're often being investigated and prosecuted against. So it's not a good look for Google. Their association and their ideological politics are really adjacent to the current.
Although I have to say, everyone by now hopefully knows, the Gmail Masonic apron thing, right?
Right.
And all the symbolism. But don't worry, now we have X, which is the Masonic compass. We have Starlink, which is another X, you know, and all the Baphomet symbolism. So don't
But I guess
worry.
that doesn't that
Meet
kind
the
of
new
just
masters, you know, same as the old to some extent.
doesn't that kind of just say then that the you know, Masons are not as uniform as people think? Like there's a bunch of lodges that are kind of maybe even competitive in a sense.
Sure. I'm sure they are. Just like you talked about with the witch covens fighting each other over, you know,
Exactly.
municipal borders or whatever.
Right. Okay. And then, oh, this sounds cool. So we're gonna play this too. That high pitched ringing is really intense. Okay, so brutal. What are we? The Ring of Power. What is it? It's kind of a Mystic Dave, eh? I'll
Yeah,
give you
so
a
this
subscribe.
is,
Benefit of the doubt.
I'm not sure how to phrase it correctly. I would say, in a sense, this is a alternative, not really mainstream, but let's say an alternative investigative conspiratorial documentary, although potentially using quite a few
4.5,
tropes
5 hours long.
that by now I would say would have to be revised or refined because of new information that's come up, because of some of the interviews you've done, I've done, where we would maybe not, you know, go with some of the tropes that are presented here exactly the way, for example, in terms of history and referencing back here, you see ancient Egypt, ancient Israel, and so on, which through Fomenko, we know it may not be exactly like this, but still, I would say it contains quite a few very interesting points. And generally what I like is a, I would say, anti-authoritarian documentary in a sense, and yeah, containing many different points. So especially to anyone who wants to revise these ideas or who is not hip to them at all, you can check it out. It talks about, you know, the different power centers with London, Rome, and Washington, DC, all the debt, all the, here you see even symbolism. This was maybe 20 years ago or something, and how government through things like Patriot Act and all of these things is basically, you know, not working in your favor, at least on that level, where they love to confuse you, create fake oppositions, create unnecessary wars. And here at the end, you even have certain solutions. One of the things they propose is take your money out of the bank. Even here, you know, be aware of all these connections. So yeah, I would think that many people watching this would be aware of quite a few things that are presented here. But certainly I think it was very interesting for me to watch, also because I had never seen it before. And it's like a nice summary. Seems like an OG anti-authoritarian documentary from, I guess, 20 years ago.
Nice.
And it's quite extensive, as you can see.
This looks good. Okay, and then let's open up Sabrina's video here. Hold on. And then this is CERN $40 billion mega collider already doomed?
So basically, I'm not even sure I correctly remember what she said, but I did watch it. Basically, I think she's asking what is even, you know, the point of doing this. The main point I wanted to bring it up is because I love that she keeps going down this route that some would call conspiratorial, because who should ever criticize CERN? You know, isn't that the most important thing, to supposedly smash some particles together? Although, of course, I would wonder also, as we know, with the whole tunnel constructions, the most famous one being the, what's it called? I want to say the Gutenberg tunnel, but that's not what it's called. Gotthard, of course, God, right? God heart or God hard tunnel. I really want to know what it is, the money they really use in terms of, you know, building more underground structures or renovating whatever was there. And of course, you have this magnetron, which is also a very symbolic thing. Yeah, I just think it's right here, key to immortality. Here we come back to this idea.
Right.
So.
She argues she doesn't think that it's the key to immortality. But I mean, what they're saying is that they're going to build a bigger collider that has more energy to go hit energy even harder. I guess the person I would trust to talk about this more would be Nima. And I recommend he's been trying to put out some videos on this subject. Also, a good channel to follow, Max Planck Institute for Physics. This channel you can see pretty.
Only 6,000 subscribers. My God.
How many people like physics, dude? It's not like the most fun thing to listen to, especially when you like. This is okay. This is one of my home slices from the Santa Cruz UCSC program. But here,
look like, and a particular
let's go back a second here.
consistent laws of nature on the one hand, and astonishingly powerful on the other. And it's indeed essentially these principles and not much else that goes into giving us a menu of possibilities for what the world could possibly look like, and a particular combination, the sort of theoretical framework that lots of talk about, laws of physics that are compatible with quantum mechanics, the principles of quantum mechanics in space-time is known as quantum field theory. So that's a sort of a large theoretical framework that lets us talk about possible laws of physics. And there's a particular quantum field theory. It's a famous standard model of particle physics and cosmology that describes everything we see in the world around us over the huge range of distances that we just talked about. So we're in a situation where our existing principles handed us from these revolutions are astonishingly powerful, and they work, but we have strong suspicions that the next step in physics has got to pull the rug out from under us and has to remove some of these principles from their primary role in the description of physics.
Most of what he's doing is he's debunking time and reframing time as sort of a holographic, I want to say, dimension of space, but it's not quite that either. It's more like a coordinate range or something. There's like he has further ways to describe it.
30 years ago, they found something astonishing, that these hundreds and hundreds of pages of algebra, in some cases, actually collapse to a single term. Okay, so this is completely nuts. That naively you would think, well, it's complicated. 2 things come in, 4 things go out. It can happen in zillions of ways. I got to add them all up. Of course, it's complicated. I'm asking a complicated question, get a complicated answer. But when you actually do it and get to the bottom line, you find this sort of one-term formula. I'm not going to explain what these symbols mean now or maybe ever, but it should make you clear there's something going on. You see, Feynman's way of doing this physics makes the usual rules of space-time and quantum mechanics as manifest as possible. That's its raison d'etre. Okay, that's what made him justifiably famous. So you want to make the rules of space-time and quantum mechanics as manifest as possible, you'll get Feynman's pictures, and you will think that the answer looks like hundreds of pages of algebra, and yet it doesn't. It isn't. Okay, so
this is one of the guys who I trust to say that he really wants the linear accelerator, because he uses it to do the actual experiments that we're, allegedly hoping will reveal something about the difference between macroscopic and microscopic physics, really, at very least, because before we even deal with quantum physics, it's dealing with qualia of physics. And there's a difference perhaps in the way subatomic particles react and we can see this if we can see in a very small space running at a super fast distance. So there's more momentum than you should expect. And there's a higher energy, super energy used to explode this thing. We can see things that we can't normally observe in macroscopic space. And that can apply in scale so that we can help understand macroscope. So it's a useful thing, perhaps. I think I can see why people want to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would still use it for first for development of, second and third world countries, and then I'm sure we'd have enough GDP to build a ring around the whole known surface area. But yeah, that's
well, I think it's like that's a whole other psychological and social problem or question.
It's like launching rockets with SpaceX.
Yeah, like okay. So I think did I show you this documentary Future Shock with the Rand Corporation playing that board game? At some point, I think this is it, right? No, this isn't right. Predictions 2000. It's hard to find it right now, but I saw a video recently that predicted what the future was going to be like in the year 2000 from people in like the 70s. I think this might be it. Hold on. So they asked people like Arthur C. Clarke and Buckminster Fuller and different people, and they had like a Rand Corporation, let's see, like Rand game prediction. I can't even find this thing. I don't know. I'll have to look for it. But basically, they like were predicting what the future would be like, and they're using like a RPG style game where the Rand Corporation's throwing a dice in order to figure out,
Right, you
what's
mentioned this.
what's the future is going to be like. And they're like, okay, so we have universal control, broadband, data, radio, communication, rapid transportation, like higher, and some sort of an autoimmune disease. They're predicting AIDS in this, and even like I think some sort of like brain control, like some sort of thought control. I think they even use the term thought control. And they're just saying how the probability of this technology existing by the year 2000 is, and it's rather high. And they're using like initiative dice to even like play in a world like that, doing different examples and routines. And yeah, again, the Rand Corporation being paid by the government to predict those things is pretty interesting. But then they're asking all these guys how they're going to help uplift right the rest of the world. And essentially they're saying like that's an essentiality they have to do for all sorts of reasons. Each one of them has a different mechanical managerial theory reason that how the world global politics affects it, and they're all talking essentially about outsourcing labor. That like the way Kissinger and what happened, in the 70s, moving to China and having sweatshops, but these were better conditions than people realize. I mean, they're terrible, but they're better than the way things were before that during the revolution. And this is like the upstep, like they destroy everything to the lowest possible thing, and then they give you this like rebuilding facility where you're trained to be urbanized and westernized, and then they start installing socioeconomic community and culture around these working facilities. So they're like, labor camps, essentially. They're labor camps in your own home state that are designed to culturally assimilate you. I mean, that's what they did to so many people, because otherwise what happens if you just let people live their own life in their own way sustainably? Can't do that.
Especially not give them the education and the tools to do it in any sovereign fashion. I mean, there's something to be said, especially if the whole trope is true with, the Stafford city walls and the peasants outside and the Industrial Revolution. You have to devise a system to uplift them. And if you really have limited resources to some extent, I can understand how you may need to fudge it here or there. But yeah, it's certainly not sustainable. And let's see which system ultimately is the most efficient and effective. Of course, I'm still a big fan of people having as much sovereignty as possible. But hey, I'm saying that, living in a box just as well. So, everyone can do what they can do from their position.
I found the video, and just, so people can find it if they want. Futurist 1967, scientists predict the 21st century. This is the video here. I'll just show like a quick, just that little first scene right there.
Your
McGraw Hill.
20% probability. 01, yes, here's the unlikely.
Yeah, exactly. This you showed me because I mentioned the D20 dice. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This is an interesting video with predictions from all of these different fellows who are rather famous, including Isaac Asimov and, important people. They're all talking about how we're going to uplift society through outsourcing corporate labor and basically building these manufacturing facilities in like the most remote and alien undeveloped places, develop in the undeveloped places, right? Which is so like where we build our greatest semiconductors and everything, or is in the most underdeveloped parts of Asia, right? Africa next. So
Totally.
Let's pull open the Echo Chambers hamster wheel with free cheese from Tommy Robinson.
Right. So here I want to give a shout out because he's put me onto quite a few interesting things here. Please go to, so basically what he's doing is just giving a tour of all the interesting books that he has, quite a few interesting books. But please go to minute 11. So I think all of those are worth taking a look, if you want to be inspired. And in minute 11, a bit further, and then play it and see what suddenly turns up. So here he's showing, of course, well, not talking about that right now, but in a moment it's gonna pull up. I think here we go. Here, what do you see here?
Oh, hey.
It's a book from David. It's a book from David Jung Jr., so he actually has the physical copy as well, which is cool. So yeah, I just wanted to show, because he's got a big library with many interesting books that are worth checking out.
Excellent. Very cool. Yeah, so check out Tommy's page for sure. All right, and that brings us to COINTEL Pro. So we'll pull open these pages really quick here. This is going to be fun. Okay, so first one being controlling opposition through the media with Dr. Leonard Horowitz and Sherry Kane.
Yeah, this is interesting because, of course, already many years ago, people were hip to the idea of COINTELPRO, and this is like another one of those OG things. And here, I guess, already, and talking about medical things, I think they specifically mentioned that they were invited to the show of Jesse Ventura, Conspiracy Time or whatever it was called, and they were directly being told, well, there's certain companies or pharmaceuticals or something that you're basically not allowed to talk about on the show. Yeah. Although I also have to say that this was I believe with Jesse Ventura, or was it Alex Jones, who had invited this researcher in 2008 who flew in on a private jet from Peru or something, and she literally said, oh well, basically they're preparing for a pandemic. This was, I believe, in 2008 or something like that. So as with these sources, even though they may be co-opted in some sense, it's still difficult and important to discern, which information is valid, which information is just fear-mongering. Yeah, and here what's also funny, technology originally invented or used by NASA. Here they're promoting their, I guess, colloidal silver, which in itself is a great thing. I just think it's funny that here you have the NASA logo on it. And anyhow, you can go to the next tab, because supposedly, at least according to these reports, then not too long after, they say it was the Hawaii mob, whatever that means. But this one individual, Sherry Kane, they say was murdered. I don't know. I haven't researched this in detail, but I found that curious.
Interesting. The Hawaii mob. I mean, Hawaii's pretty weird. Obama's lived in Hawaii most of his life, right? So there's definitely some weird stuff there for sure. And there's more. Here's a list of documentaries he has. Yeah,
so I somehow stumbled across this list and I was like, okay, I'm just going to put all of them here, especially, right, because of the Kay Griggs interview. I'm sure I brought it up on a show, 2 years ago already. That's very interesting because it's 8 hours of a former spouse to some intelligence operative. And it's just kind of hilarious because she always says, oh, what they're doing intelligence. But actually, half the time they just meet up in some back rooms doing God knows what and being involved in all kinds of strange things. And somehow, maybe because the guy was abusing alcohol or whatever it is, she basically got to learn about all kinds of things in the military, and she's relaying them here. It's a long watch, but it seems legit enough in terms of the way she comes across, and may give an interesting insight, at least, let me just phrase it cautiously, into certain aspects of the military-industrial complex, and especially what is called intelligence agencies and what they may be up to.
Epic.
Yeah, these others I didn't watch, or maybe I don't know in detail. You may know more about them.
I mean, I saw David Icke in 2003, and Bill Schnoblin's hilarious. I love this guy. We should really talk to him somehow. I mean, so he's like an ex-coked up werewolf. He was like a cocaine addict werewolf, I think, and a Mormon for a while, according to his long story.
You should get together with Douglas Dietrich, the vampire.
I think he was. Maybe that was it. Maybe he was a vampire. So the deal was you got to watch his whole thing. His spiel is that he was into witchcraft in Ohio and joined the Church of Satan because of UFOs. He was like a UFO nerd who got into Satanism, and then he was drinking blood. I think, yeah, he was drinking blood. So he's like a vampire. And then he was, some bank lady saw that he was praying, sending tax money to the Church of Satan. So she said she's going to pray for him in the name of Jesus Christ. And then he lost all his power and he had to become a Mormon for a while before he like became. Now he's like wearing a rabbi kibbah and preaching about Jesus. He has like, I think he has a YouTube channel. So I mean, his best stuff is like the old stuff like this, and his Prophecy Club stuff. All the Prophecy Club stuff's hilarious.
Right. The Bible Prophecy Club is interesting. Yeah.
Incredible. Anything that he did with them is just worth watching.
Oh, and he's actually go back, because then he just made these quite popular. If you go back to this one, or just on his main, here, because
Sonic
this
Xirtus, yeah, I think he's a Freemason. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have been a high level one, I don't think, but. I like that other video better though, because look, he wears his kibbah. You know what I mean? Like it's like that to me. I don't want to be rude. I think it's great, but to me, it's like the guy in the Mummy movie who uses the Hebrew. What was this? There's the Mummy movie. Come on, man. What's the name of that little character in the Mummy?
I think I've actually seen that movie with the scorpion or something.
Totally. Okay, so the Mummy movie, Language of the Slaves. This is it right here. Okay, let me just try to open this scene up for a second. So to walk you through it, there's this horrifying mummy, and then there's this like little Hungarian Jewish man right here. Actually, I don't know if he's Jewish or not, but he's just a Hungarian, and he's Hungarian out with the mummies. And all of a sudden the mummy shows up and he's like, oh man. So he starts praying in like every language he can think of. Like he prays to Jesus, he prays to Muhammad, he prays to Zoroaster. He does a little Buddhist thing for a second there, which doesn't do much good. And then all of a sudden he starts praying in Hebrew. He pulls out the star and starts praying in Hebrew. And then the mummy's like, ooh, the language of the slaves, because I'm Pharaoh.
That's a double-edged statement.
You'll be of use to me, right? But yeah, I feel like it's kind of like that. You know what I mean? Then he wears the kibbah. That was all round back to the Bill Snow one. Okay, well then this is Dark Alliance, the CIA and Contras, the crack cocaine explosion. Sweet.
I'm kind of thinking that this is somewhat popular or known. All it makes me think of, and I'm not saying that is historically accurate at all, but I think the acting and so on was decent enough in the series called Snowfall, right? Also, because what I kind of like about it is that it showed, how potentially low-level individuals are simply being used and propped up, but ultimately it's all dependent, on the background intelligence operations and people making excuses for themselves in terms of, in their mind, why it is okay, because it's for the war and, we're fighting the evil Reds and all of that. So I haven't read the book, but I thought I'd have to just put it there because I'm sure it's interesting. I guess this is a known story by now, how this is all interconnected. But definitely interesting to look at.
Have you seen that show, The Patriot, yet?
I don't think so. I only know this old one called Homeland, but I could only go with it for so long.
There's something really interesting about this show. And like one of the things here for me, even he works for a piping company and they have the pipes he sits in. It's like a Mickey Mouse logo, kind of the way they do it. It doesn't look like that in this frame as much, but it totally does in a lot of the framing. And he's sitting there kind of this like MK Ultra thing. And it's about a guy who's got to work at this company and he has to like fake his P tests. So he gets a guy who's working there to help him do it so he can work at the company. But he has to fake his P test because he's been living in Amsterdam for the last like 6 months, and he's been living in Amsterdam for the last 6 months because, he's a hitman for the CIA or intelligence agent, essentially, whose brother is a congressman and his dad's like a, manipulative defense or intelligence contractor himself, who's essentially using his kids to try to build up power in DC. And he was in Egypt, but there was some sort of, or like Iraq or whatever. And there was some sort of I think it was Egypt. And there was some sort of a mistake with where the car was to go. And he got arrested and he was tortured for like 2 months, forced to sit in a white room with light everywhere with no darkness while listening to American Pie from Don McLean on repeat over and over again for 2 months. Just a long, long time ago. I can still remember. Yeah, it's a pretty hardcore. And then he has to like go kill people to get money to Iran so that they can make a propaganda to help make sure one candidate wins and so another candidate doesn't win, because Obama said by any means necessary Iran will not be nuclearized. Right? That's basically all. It's all about stopping denuclearizing Iran, essentially. I don't know. It's a pretty good show though. It's like it's got that all-American boy who just does what he's got to do kind of thing to it. I'd highly recommend Patriot. It's fun.
Well, all I know is Khomeini has the 19 coding all over him, and from the little bit that I can glean, very much seems just like it was previously with the Soviets or whatever, that to a large extent it is a manufactured boogeyman.
There was
And I
definitely
recently heard that
yeah.
they don't even really have, I mean, whatever nuclear weapons are, that's something we have discussed even last show. But yeah, supposedly they don't even have that much capacity or whatever. But yeah, all I can say is I hope for less war, less needless expenditure for weapons, and more, water supplies and clothes for everybody who doesn't have them yet.
Oh, dude. I mean, a secular Iran. We just gotta get that going. All right, Drogan, what's going on here?
I'm surprised that you're even allowed to see this, because this is from our German documentary channel. So this is supposedly a new map, let's say, for the new drug routes. This is published by Arte, which is this German-French collaboration documentary culture channel. They sometimes put out quite interesting things, also because I think they mainly just produce documentaries. And it's kind of funny because people in the comment sections are always like, oh, Arte, that is the reason why I'm glad I'm paying this forced tax like they have for the BBC as well in the UK. I asked before, you don't have that in America, right? You don't have like a particular tax to pay for NPR like us, or do you?
I mean,
not directly. You have enough other taxes anyways. But
yeah, let's just check it really quickly though to be more clear about that. What sort of taxes do Americans pay for things like public broadcasting? Because it's not NPR, but public broadcasting. Let's see. Corporation for Public Broadcasting receives annual appropriation from Congress.
By Congress, yeah.
Yeah. So from income tax, we do give a small amount, probably 0.01 of the 6.2 trillion spending. But yeah, they take money and then they put it into whatever they want to, like into your stuff. Like that was what USAID was showing, was they were making puppet shows for Iraq, and Serbian transgender media tutorial videos and anime and things like that. So I think we were paying for BBC. That was a major thing. Like 60% of the BBC budget was being paid for by USAID, not by British tax money.
Oh, that's curious. Well, who's the colony now?
Yeah. Well, What were we saying earlier about Iran? Okay, so,
right, so
was this?
Anyhow, what you have here is supposedly what they claim is, new routes where here they're showing you where is the, in this case, I guess the hash mainly coming from Morocco. You can maybe skip forward a bit. Yeah, right. Then where's the heroin coming from? Well, big surprise, Afghanistan again, because I think they even mentioned that it was banned for a certain time. Then yeah, amphetamines. You have some labs. Of course,
I gotta admit, the amphetamine one, as much as I hate the drugs, it's interesting where they're located, because that tells you a lot about the industrialization of these labs, right? Because these are all done in labs. So it's showing you where they have excess industrialization. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Mexico, of course. And cocaine is coming from Colombia.
Yes, no surprise here.
I mean, pretty soon it'll be coming from Colorado. That's what we need. We need medical cocaine. It's going to change everything, because it's going to end the cartels. South Park. They predicted the gay fish that is Kanye. They also predicted medical cocaine. So it's on the look. It's going to happen. Well, okay. Drug routes. Very interesting. I feel like drugs are kind of almost over, because with fentanyl and everything, people are going to get so afraid of them that it's, I mean, if that ever happens outside of the United States, especially, people are gonna be so afraid of drugs, you know. But I don't know. Isn't it becoming? I feel like it's become. I mean, the left-wing government was pushing for like legalization of all sorts of substances. Right-wing governments are usually the opposite. So I feel like we're going to be seeing more of a push against.
Yeah, that's actually something interesting. Whereas in Hungary, supposedly they just passed a new constitutional amendment, or maybe not amendment, a change of the constitution, where the main two things, at least what they promote on the media, is number one, they declared, just like they did in the UK recently, that there is only two biological genders. I mean, you know, it took them 20 years to realize that. I always love it when some, you know, crazy psychopaths push an agenda, and then 20 years later someone else can play the hero just because they're supposedly rolling it back. But at the same time, what they did in Hungary is they said that any consumption of what you would call, I guess, street drugs, even the tiniest amount for personal consumption, now supposedly is put under even stricter regulation. So to your point, because they have a right-wing government, that's what they say. Although, yeah, from everything I heard, maybe this was already that period, I can hardly imagine that this is something that they are really enforcing 100% internally as well, because there's still a huge amount of money associated with this. And from the little bit of on-the-ground information I have, it very much seems as if even local relevant dealers, of course, are connected in one way or another to governments, you know, to port authorities and all of that stuff. So it may also well be just a, how should I say, you know, law supposedly for the common people, or, you know, so the police has something more to do or can feel even more important. Whereas in the back end, of course, with whatever intelligence ops, they are still shipping it around because it makes a lot of money for certain government officials and other, you know, corporatists, industrialists, whatever it is. I always, honestly, I mean, not that anyone's asking me, but it is so obvious that the banning of these substances, while I wouldn't encourage anyone to use any of those, especially those that can really affect your health long term, it's just so obvious it's a complete scam. What can I say? And one meme I saw recently was also great with like alcohol and cannabis, and we know all the different things that cannabis can do, even officially now in so many studies, things it can help with. You have an endocannabinoid system and so on. We'll talk about something else regarding these ideas a little bit later. But of course, at the same time, still, I guess, worldwide, alcohol is promoted without any limits. And everyone's still pretending as if alcohol use is such a great thing or is not an issue at all. Even in conversations, it's, you know, when you have time and you're interested somewhat like me, I watch some local, you know, Austrian political talk shows, and they were talking about the potential for cannabis legalization in Austria because it's already legalized in Germany, right? And they were like, oh no, it's so bad because then, of course, you know, young people will feel even more emboldened to buy it, this and that, which is all correct, you know, although the first question would have to be, why would you have a child that would feel the need to get high, you know? And of course, let's not ask any systemic questions where that idea even comes about, or have any type of, you know, negative relationship to it or addiction or whatever. And then in the same talk, they were both like, I guess, you know, 40 to 50-year-old guys. In the same talk, they were like, yeah, but actually with alcohol, you know, we have a culture and we have the nice whiskey and so on. So totally shilling for that, of course, obviously, because it's their culture.
Not as cool as California marijuana culture. I mean, with the like drive-throughs and the ice cream cones, it's crazy.
Yeah, but I just want to say, of course, everyone is beholden to their own culture and their upbringing. I just think it's funny if you're technically a political or whatever else analyst and professor or whatever, and you're not able to see through that, and at the very least say, okay, even just let's totally legalize it for anything medical before we have some synthetic cannabinoids or whatever else.
I feel like some people hate
hypocrisy.
A lot of people are racist against Californians, you know, like similar to Germans and Austrians, probably for like really similar reasons too. I mean, you know,
tell me the example. How would you say that?
Well, so I mean, Californians
racist
are
against Californians, like people are racist against
or like
Austrians or
or
Germans.
maybe we're like, you know, there's kind of a national because of the Reich and the Nazis and everything like that. People always hold you for, you know, forcing people to stand to your whatever. This is exactly the way Californians are. I feel like they go into a place and say no more smoking in libraries, you know, or bars or, you know, whatever it is, and then they'll continue to push from there. It'll be like, now you have to be vegetarian inside of your steakhouse, and then you have to drive a car that has no fuel in it and use a paper straw to drink your milkshake that can't have milk in it. It has to be coconut. It's just your surfboards can't be made in California.
And
you know,
we
it's just
totally
worse and
need
worse.
a third type of transgender bathroom. And at least in Austria, I'm not sure, because in Germany, I think you can legally, you know, change your gender all the time. I'm not sure if they have the same thing for Austria, but apparently there was a recent survey or statistics, whereas you have a total of 87 or something, just happy it's not 88, official intersex identified individuals in Austria. And of course, these individuals should equally be cared for and all of that. That's not even the question. But it's just so, yeah, the obvious hypocrisy. Everyone knows by now that then they pretend, oh, allow everyone a sex change to be decided when they're 10 years old without parental consent, because, we have 0.00001% individuals that actually are intersex,
Yeah,
So,
but that's only
yeah.
now. It's like wait until the propaganda really kicks in, because it's been spreading elsewhere really fast. I'm pretty sure you guys will catch up. Zeitgeist addendum, social corruption.
Yeah, of course you know about this movie, right? So I had to bring it up because of the other documentaries, and this is another one of the classics. So there is 3 parts to Zeitgeist, and of course many individuals by now have realized Peter Joseph, who did this, he was heavily promoting the Venus Project, which is a nice idea, but to some extent also just a communist variant of 15-minute cities.
Super ironic, right? Like I was like, okay, this guy, the first that guy says like, it's not as good as Esoteric Agendas. Like Ben Stewart had a really good documentary, and most of the information was covered again in Zeitgeist, but not all of it. There's still more stuff that was in Esoteric Agendas. And then Zeitgeist took this really like anti-religious approach, and so with it tried to go down on spirituality, and it wasn't the right direction. Whereas like Ben Stewart went from Esoteric Agenda to Kymatica, which was more about, subatomic energy or wave energy or resonance frequencies and things like that. So
Can you pull up that video? Because I don't think I've seen it. So anyhow, this one is definitely recommended to watch for everyone. I think this was the first time for me. Even here, I'm honestly wondering if Zeitgeist isn't a psyop in itself in terms of how it was promoted, because this was officially like the first supposedly independently produced documentary that became ultra viral on the entirety of the internet in about 2011 or whatever. I don't even know, if I'm thinking of it now, where I saw it, if this was on YouTube or wherever it would even have been distributed properly. But what's great about it, it just explains the very basics of fractional reserve banking. So for me, it's like a classic in that regard. And Zeitgeist Addendum is mainly focusing on that. And that's certainly something everyone should at least have heard, right?
Yeah.
So they can understand a little bit better how banks actually work, that they're not really storing your money and they're not really taking your bills and giving it to the next guy. But through accounting, we've had on Professor Franz Hörmann, for example, they do all kinds of shenanigans with the accounting and the back-end system.
Isn't this kind of like a World Economic Forum? Like the fact that he's pushing so hard for you will own nothing, be happy living in a resource economy. Doesn't that kind of frighten you about the Zeitgeist guy, making this like documentary series?
That's why I'm saying inside is some kind of a psyop in itself as well. But still, I would wonder why they bring these things up so clearly with the Federal Reserve banking, because that part is certainly relevant to everyone who doesn't understand yet that banking is a huge scam, for lack of a better term.
This is the one I always like, Esoteric Agenda by Ben Stewart.
Okay, that's great. I haven't seen this. But today we have many great documentary recommendations. So everyone, you have like about 50 hours to watch.
And then the sequel to this one was the one also, Kymatica, which is really interesting because where Zeitgeist Addendum goes, again, like in a further atheistic route towards a resource economy and a humanist approach to a utopia, after describing all the problems that were, that would make it impossible to do that without it being completely controlled. It's like such a weird thing to like say, give in to all of your wealth being controlled by the Venus Project. It's just such a weird thing to do. But Kymatico is really interesting because it talks about how energy frequencies work and people that are, Brzezinski quote, as Americans become an increasingly multicultural society, it may find it more difficult to fashion a consensus of foreign policy issues, except in circumstances of truly massive and widely perceived direct and external threats, right? And so to create these dreams and nightmares to control people, and how you can be aware of this like hypnosis, essentially the hypnosis, maybe you could say, and all how ancient it goes, right? That these people that are in advertising come from families that sacrifice goats, and it goes back even further. I liked this one a lot. It was definitely a more spiritual angle. It wasn't religious at all, I wouldn't say, but I'm a friend of Ben's now. I didn't know him at the time that he made this documentary, but we ended up meeting at the Palace at some point when I was working in New York and Connecticut. And yeah, he does like ayahuasca videos or something. Ben Stewart channel. Doesn't he have like his own? Yeah, Ben Joseph Stewart channel. I would recommend subscribing and checking out his videos. He's a very he's a cool guy. He did some Gaia stuff as well. So highly recommend Ben. Night Inc.
So there was a much darker Instagram post, which I didn't put up because it's unverified and it goes into the usual topics I don't want to mention right now. But this is apparently the company that's managing many of the super big time streamers. I believe like iShowSpeed and some of these others. They don't even have a list here. But apparently this one, in association with the Next Tab, who is like one of the guys behind it, yeah, they are like funding a lot of those very popular streamers, and yeah, God knows what goes on in the background. I won't say more here, but I just found it interesting because I'm aware that there are these talent agencies, but it is kind of curious that many of the most high-profile streamers are literally managed by a company called Night. Oh, you muted, Andreas.
All I'm saying, interesting. We'll have to look into this a bit more. I mean, I guess it says that this guy's involved with News Corp, and he sits on the board of American Express, Berkeley Equity Partners of Providence, Malaria No More UK, Twitter, Pandora, News Corp, DirecTV, E-Trade, and Friends of the Global Fight Against AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria. And Chernin has donated over 100,000 to the DNC, candidates associated organizations, as well as hosting Barack Obama at his home for a fundraiser.
Oh yeah, and he did Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Wait, this is even what he's also a director?
He was a producer. So he puts money into a movie so that he gets money back from it. So he produced, which is a great movie. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a phenomenal movie. It's a really good one. Parental Guidance I haven't seen, but these are some safe bets. Oblivion, isn't that like, is that a Tom Cruise thing or something? I don't know. Which one's Oblivion?
It says Tom Cruise or the
yeah,
cover, yeah.
Totally. This one's that weird like anime futurist Scientology movie. St. Vincent, interesting. The Drop, Spy, you don't say. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. He does all the Planet of the Apes. Made a movie about Tolkien. Red Sparrow. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, wow. He's into producing a bunch of movies. He's got to have tons of money. Clearly.
Yeah, I'm just wondering in this case, is it like with some of these YouTube channels where they're like, oh, if you donate or contribute like $100 a month or whatever, I'll put you as executive producer at the end of the credits, you know?
No, it's more like
end of his involvement. I don't know.
Sort of like the way they do it is like you create a company, and the company's a limited liability company that's around a particular production. So every movie has a new production company essentially for that liability sake.
Why does this make me think of money laundering? Not making any allegations here.
And then you get investors to put money into the pot. So you got this bank account with this pot, and then they make stipulations about how they'll deliver the money based on what reasons. But they'll, in the long run, give maybe $100 million or $10 million or whatever it is. And you get like, you know, $50 million from 4 people, then you can make a super movie. And that's what they try to like spend all of that money, you know? Ewing is not here immediately, but he's with us.
It's always the joke
virtually.
because when I'm doing the presentations and always the 19s come up, then David likes to say, "Oh, Raphael, you have your glasses on because is it really 19?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's really 19. It doesn't stop." But we get into a bit of coding in a bit actually, so we'll have a few more numbers to throw up. So yeah, the next one is fun. That's a perplexity query. I just put it there because I was like, yeah, why not?
Request access. It won't let me look at it.
Oh, okay. Then basically, please enter if you can and ask. We can do it live. Everyone can do it live, you know.
Okay.
And ask, what is the question? Are the CEO/presidents of NVIDIA and AMD somehow blood related? That's how I put the query, but maybe we brought it up before. But because of the whole, you know, COINTELPRO controlled opposition, or the, you know, Pike Masonic idea of we will supply a hero if you need one. I mean, we can discuss who's the hero depending whether you're team green or team red. You know, it's again. Oh, it takes some time, but it's gonna tell you.
Yeah, we could have done this with Grok. We would have told you the same thing, which is that they are. But then again, isn't everybody through Adam and Eve? Yes, the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, and AMD, Lisa Su, are related. They are first cousins once removed. Specifically, Jensen Huang's mother is the sister of Lisa Su's grandfather, making Huang the older cousin in the relationship. This means that in English family relationship terms, Huang is Su's first cousin once removed, and this could also be described as her second uncle in some cultural contexts.
So I think this is just amazing because it shows in a certain way, of course, how you have elite families, and then
but they didn't know each other at all until their professional careers.
Yeah, I'm sure. And even if they didn't, does it really matter? Because if you have the proper lineage, you are much more likely to accede to such kind of positions. Yeah, just wanted to point that out.
Fair. Makes sense. I mean, you know, it's probably like small community of people that were capable like that. And so they're probably related. Maybe it's also like certain genes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's the genetic superiority which makes them perfect to run the only two. I mean, I guess there's a few more in the back end, but the two most important public-facing computer technology companies that you literally can't get around if you want to build any computer.
Glad you said instead of me, you know. But
let's not talk about trusted platform modules and all the other things. The you know, ARM coprocessors that they apparently put into every new motherboard and CPU to have unlimited hardware backdoors to everybody. Anyways, here, please go to 31 minutes and 22 seconds. Yeah, so here, basically what they show here is they show some old Chinese Communist Party propaganda about America, which is kind of hilarious here. As you can see, America is a robber, and, you know, they're like singing about how America is stealing stuff from China. You know, to some extent, this may be correct. Of course, these two guys, they are very pro-American and always making fun of China. From what I understand, of course, the background connections are more complex, just like you mentioned previously. There is a point to moving factories to underdeveloped countries. Even though it is a variant of slave labor to a certain extent, there is something to be said in terms of developing countries and all of that, or helping countries develop by deliberately moving machinery and factories there. This was part of the officially Kissinger deal. I believe David Ewing Jr. may also have spoken about this publicly, basically how you continually move around your main machinery, number one, so you don't pollute your own backyard, and number two, that you actually give someone else access, maybe not to the technology itself, but at the very least to the labor and to some funding, so they can ideally uplift people from poverty and from living in caves and actually having language, clothes, and all of that. To what extent China truly is successful with this overall, I cannot say, because there is propaganda going both ways, both in terms of so many people being uplifted. At the same time, they always bring up these tofu drag constructions, right? Where it literally seems as if buildings are made out of styrofoam or something. But this may also partially be due to local corruption, many factors involved. Anyhow, here they're showing this propaganda. I think that's enough. Yeah, right here. And this poster is funny because they say, yeah, basically work hard and take a difficult job, and it's low pay, but it's great because you help to build China or something like that.
I love in the like Maoist propaganda posters. Like, you know, there's really nothing quite as persuasive, in my opinion. I think there's some. I mean, they're better than the German 30s propaganda. They certainly defeat the realism of Stalinist propaganda. There's just something really gestalt about them. You know, there's really kind of simple stencils, very similar to the Jugendstil and in the 60s, the hippies, kind of their posters, something like that. It's a little bit surreal in a sense. And it's, I mean, it's just so
Soviet
powerful.
propaganda poster style is definitely a style I think is very appealing.
Soviet's good, but Maoism, man, Maoism. Where's like like a rocket science? Where's like I gotta find like look at these, man. These are so good. That's not it. Like this is a Soviet one that's pretty good, but Maoist. I'm only finding the Russian ones now for some reason, but the Chinese ones are so good. Oh well, I don't know. I can't. Oh, there we go. Here's one right here. You know, there's just something about that.
Tab, at least
oh, that's a tragedy. Hold on. This one right here. You know, these kinds of things that they made all the time. Did you see the ones I was showing earlier, or did they not show up at all? Did they all get lost?
No, we didn't see them yet. Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
Too bad. I mean, if I'll go back a page to, let's see here. Where was it? You know, just generally, they're fun. They have this sort of simple, refined, a lot of the early ones, and then they get more and more artistic. And, you know, our brothers in Africa are liberating their colleagues, you know, like the Red Book is spreading. Oh, they're just really, it's just fun. It's just, I mean, it's a lot more fun than Maoism, I'll tell you that. But
you mean the post? Yeah, the propaganda. Yeah, that's usually what it is. The propaganda is more fun than if you're actually being forced under the regimen, whatever is being proposed.
Yeah, and maybe directly proportional. I don't know, but it's some of this stuff. It's really, and like some of these things are just. I used to have them posters when I was young. I just love this stuff. You know, I just something about Maoist propaganda. I just think it's really good. Like, and I don't know, some of it's better than other stuff. I wanted to find some really good examples from like the 80s, essentially. Maybe like if I go down here, yeah, like look at some of these. These are just so great. These kids with they're working on here. Look at this one. Children with a computer. This is like in the 80s too. Like early 80s. So they're just showing like what the future is going to be for China. And you have to understand, like no kid had anything in 1980 in Japan and China. So this is just wild. But now they do. This is like they created and manifested this dream. In a lot of ways, this really happened under Jiang Zemin, you know?
I mean, yeah, sure. In the minds of the people that accept the propaganda, China also did all kinds of space and Mars missions by now and all of that, right? So
true.
They
succeeded. Even with the computer thing, especially, it's true. They totally believe in this, everything else. But that these kids
they got
access
the computers now. Yeah,
oh man, they make the computers. All the computers are made there, so they have them in their pockets. Everyone has one in their pocket. To have Chinese people go from melting down their family jewelry into saw blades for the government while their fathers were taken from them, to having iPhones or Android, like these little Huawei phones in their pockets that can fold and whatever, and they can get on the internet and they can research what the things at least they want them to be able to research. That's pretty amazing. I mean, they really did manifest some sort of dream with that propaganda. Pretty sweet. Okay, China uses black myth Wukong to attack Taiwan, ends up getting humiliated.
So this
Fun
is
game.
funny. This is from the same show. I sometimes like to watch them, not because I necessarily. Well, they have some unique insight for sure because they've been to China. They are usually
They have a
anti-China.
sour taste in their
So
mouth, yeah, about the PRC.
yeah. So go back a bit. So first, the whole point here is that first they show the Black Myth Wukong. I'm
Great
not
game.
sure who exactly produced this actually, and
It's a Chinese developer. That's the
Right.
thing. It's a lot of people gave it a really hard time because of the fact that it wasn't made by Western people. Yeah, I think it's published by Game Science is the name of the company. Feng Ji and Yang Qi started a company. Let's see here.
Yeah, you didn't switch the tab yet, but actually, right, here we are. But what I meant by this is I don't know who produced the propaganda video in this case. I didn't find the source, so I'm not sure about that. But yes, you're right. It's a Chinese company, so they're kind of like showing it in terms of, oh, look, with our CGI Black Myth Wukong fighter, we're totally obliterating the American military. Because I even heard recently they had some type of official emergency meeting where China kind of said that they're preparing for war. I'm not sure if that is only a PR stunt, and even if they want to go through with it, it's an open question where the next engineered conflict is going to happen.
If
Most
you want
likely,
a baby boom, you got to have a war. You know, they're not having babies until they have a war.
Yeah, most likely in some place which is, you know, under-regulated, where people are not paying taxes and not everyone is in some way, shape, or form locked into the matrix system yet. But that's only my understanding of the situation. And then what they show is, look, some American or whoever else made the counter propaganda with Sonic, and these two guys are like super happy, like, yeah, look, Sonic, it's so much cooler. But then the valid question is Sonic originally American? I mean, maybe this could be argued, but isn't it technically a Japanese invention? And the Japanese weren't exactly aligned with America, at least
They
before
certainly weren't aligned with
1945.
Well, I mean, it depends.
Right.
We
Or
were in a
also
lot
on
of
the
ways.
other
Japan
side,
was
they
really
wouldn't be
Western.
aligned. It depends, of course, to which layer we're looking at now. But you're also right. There is also some Chinese, Japanese, how do you call it?
Animosity.
Non-sympathy. Animosity, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that Sonic was developed by the Japanese, but also is kind of universalized by Western companies as
Yeah,
well.
Sega
Sonic
America,
3D,
of course, is a
yeah.
huge thing as well, of course.
But
yes.
yeah, I mean, they were definitely it was definitely originally originally formed in Japan. But again, like Taiwan and Japan are more friendly too. So because they're closer islands, so there could be a future where Taiwan and Japan are friends, and the United States and Taiwan work with Japan to fight against China. The problem is China and Russia really have the full eastern seaboard, so it's not looking good. Looks bad. So why China has exposed a luxury lie that keeps you broke?
So again, here we have two interesting aspects. So basically, that's the official story now. Because of the tariffs introduced by Trump, which I expect will also be, some long game. We briefly spoke about it last show. Some Chinese manufacturers or factories came on the scene on TikTok or wherever else and basically started saying, look, this bag that you're paying $38,000 for in Europe or America, which is a luxury brand bag, we're actually producing that bag for only $2,000. And why don't you want to order it directly from our factory?
Yeah.
And the other side of the story is again from the China show, which is the next tab, where they are saying this is actually not exactly true. It may be, let's see which, I don't have a mark there, sorry. Here they're basically saying that no, it's not correct. They're only trying to upsell their own stuff, which is one of the aspects that I may. Oh, here was the guy. If you go back a bit, there was the guy who made like the counter argument to it. This guy, yeah. So he's saying it's an exaggeration in terms of pricing. It's not exactly correct, and it may be that even the Chinese guy, but I mean he would be the smarter for it, may actually be putting forward a price that is higher than he actually needs to ask for his own product. So basically saying that he's telling you, oh, don't pay $38,000, only pay whatever, $2,000 if you order it directly, but the actual value of the product may still only be $500, you know? So the Chinese manufacturer still may try to upsell, but I mean, who can blame him? What I do have to say, however, and I haven't deeply investigated this, and oftentimes luxury brands like to claim, oh, it's made in France, it's made here or there. Somewhere in the comments, I even saw someone who claimed, they said, oh, I've been to this luxury brand store, and I was looking at the lady who's selling stuff, and she's like, yeah, this is very special quality leather. It's not, it's a synthetic leather because we're against animal exploitation. And then the guy was like, well, isn't that just polyurethane or something, like some common type of plastic, which is very cheap? And then apparently the lady looked at him in a way like, oh, dude, like you're too smart to be in this store, you know? But anyways, I would be very much surprised if most of these luxury brands do not produce most of their things in China or elsewhere anyways, and most certainly sell things that are massively overpriced. And to my understanding, nobody should pay, you know, more than whatever, 50% markup or whatever, just to have a logo on their clothes or something else. But, you know, some people are into that, don't want to
Put
take
your own logo on your own clothes, you know?
Yeah,
Even if you pay,
exactly.
and you should pay
Exactly.
Chinese people to do it for you. Oh, okay, cool. So now we're up to the glorious stupidity of Flamenco's new chronology, Goldbug's Journal on Civilization.
Yeah, so just to throw a counterpoint there, I don't give particular credence to this, but I just found it hilarious. And I believe, maybe scroll down to his name, because somewhere, somehow, there was a guy with the name of Rothschild, but there's only a name, of course, but it's not here. Maybe it was somewhere else. But anyways, anyone, because we talk a lot about flamenco and alternative history, if you want to listen or read a blog post by someone who thinks it is completely insane and ridiculous, you can read that post. I randomly found it and I just thought it's, you know, fun to put up there. I don't really see that he has a point or anything, but, you know, typical.
Always good to hear other people's side. Yeah, exactly.
Of course. And
And
I'll
now
be
we
the
get to coding.
first to put criticism on front, you know, so people can make up their own mind if they want to believe it or not. Right, so here with the coding. We have the Quran chapter 47, of course, right now in America. You officially, if you want to believe it, you have the 47th president of the United States. We already pointed out, even on the cap, baseball caps now, he has 45, 47, which literally is 9/11. Jesuit coding out the wazoo. So the Surah 47 in the Quran, of course, has to be mentioned.
You gotta give him props for that one.
This is only in the written Quran. So in the original version of the Quran, which is a chant, you do not have these type of chapters. And there's a huge conspiracy here as well with the 19 coding in the Quran, in terms of, there are books about it which show, oh, they came out in about 1974. The Quran has this amazing coding based on the number 19. This may well have been engineered into it afterwards. David Ewing Jr. showed a few examples with discrepancies between the chant and the written version. And it very well may be that all the modern official versions of the Quran have a deliberate numbering system to create a certain code. So just to remember, the original variant is something that you sing, something that you chant, and where David Ewing Jr. always says, ideally, you go to the mosque or you ask learned people that they explain the meanings to you, because the dictionaries and the translations, they cannot be trusted 100%. He says there's about a 10% difference, which may make all the difference in the world if it concerns certain words and certain concepts. The main point here I want to bring is that anytime you see a 19, 9/11 and so on, be aware it's Jesuit coding. And at the same time, look out for the 47s. And even just now, I'm thinking of it, isn't there also the 47th problem of Euclid, which is related to the Freemasonry logo? Am I dreaming? That's also the 47. So anyhow, you have some of these numbers which are repeatedly used, and they refer to some kind of back-end coding, signaling between the elite, whatever it is. But anytime you see these numbers in any news stories, you know, watch out, take a closer look,
And it's
and
a little T like
reconsider.
Trump.
Yeah, and reconsider whether whatever they're telling you at face value really is a story, or if there is a whole other thing behind it, or if it's really just something put up to get people riled up when the real thing is something completely different. Yeah, then here, just for fun, I have a few examples. This is 47 from Star Trek. So we have quite a few significances of the 47, and then also 74 makes reappearances. And then, oh, this is even a whole society for it. I didn't even get that part. You opened a different list
The
somehow.
47 Society showed up because I clicked on this 47 page and it said,
Oh, okay.
the origin of the significance of 47 can be traced to Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager writer Joe Minosky, who attended Pomona College in California. There's a club at Pomona called the 47 Society, which claims that there is a mathematical proof that all numbers are equal to 47 and the number 47 occurs with greater frequency in nature than other numbers. 74 making frequent appearances as well, as does 23, which is one of my favorites. I like them both. You know, I'm a fan of numbers. I guessed 23 last time. Someone did like a 100 side or 99 side die or whatever it was, like a big old, you know, Adam was doing that. And it was correct. Fourth season of TNG, and the in-joke quickly caught on amongst the rest of the staff. Okay, so here's the page. Many have noticed, many have wondered why 47 is the quintessential random number. Many more have wondered, so what? 47 frequently asked questions. Interesting. There's a 47 Society at Pomona. Gonna have to look into that.
That's cool, because thank
Started
you.
in
That's why I
64.
pulled it up so we can go even deeper. I didn't click all the links on that page.
The joke
But I-
continued in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, as there are frequent 47s found in the alternate reality. Interesting. J.J. Abrams is, you know, not my favorite dude, but like, you know, he definitely is into super deep lore. Like, I think his stories are very superficial so that he can be more profound in his esoteric. He made a book where there's a book published by him. It's a novel, and there's two sets of pen notes printed in it. So it's like you buy the book and it's already had notes taken in it, and one's red and one's blue. And so one is the earlier notes that someone took when they first had the book, and the other is the second set of notes in red that are written by the second person who had the book later, which is a whole different. And you're supposed to read the book while also reading the notes of these people who are reading the book. And it's, I mean, there's definitely a lot going on in this simple man's head.
Wasn't his first very popular thing that they played like almost 20 years ago, this spy thing? What
I
was
was
it
gonna
called?
say Felicity, right? Because he did Felicity.
No. There is a spy, something about spies, where also it turns out that the supposedly CIA attached company that the girl is working for actually is a terrorist organization. And then it's like always this in between, you know, who is the real good guys? You know what I mean? I'm sure it was produced by J.J. Abrams.
What's the name of the
I always saw it.
show?
Yeah,
I just remember Felicity.
I'm checking right now.
Armageddon, Felicity, Bad Robot Company, Alias. You're talking about Alias, okay?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
sure.
yes.
And she's got the like wig, you know, the pink hair or whatever the deal is.
Yes,
It's-
exactly.
Yeah, that's true. You did that show. I never really watched Alias. I probably should, right? It's probably like a good like mainstream show about like MK Ultra. Everyone
Basically,
Jennifer Garner.
I say
So,
basically, yeah. Yeah,
Cross
so it was
is like Jennifer
2001.
Garner's in it. Jennifer Garner's in it. Don't say that like it's a good thing. Just kidding.
Yeah, so this was back at a time when I still sometimes was watching TV and they played it all the time here. So
You know what?
how
I
know it.
mean, to be fair, I was just promoting Felicity. So yeah, you know what? Alias. Forget about that.
Someone's reading my thought in the chat.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Ben Affleck's Bennifer thing going on, right? With the other Belo, you know, whatever. Okay, Saudi arrested in 1986 Khobar tower struck bombing that killed 19 U.S. servicemen.
Yes,
Oh,
so this is just more coding with the 19. However, I'm pretty sure you skipped over one list. Yes.
Oh yeah.
You skipped over the previous one, which
Where
is
do I
more
go here?
47s, the T5K.
Oh, okay.
Someone in my private chat pointed this out to me. Just if people want to look at more 47s, there's a lot more. See, even in the Pixar film Monsters, the Scream Factory, which is, a super deep dive, also the whole Monsters thing, had enjoyed 47 accident-free days at the start of the movie. Then you have with Star Trek, also in the episode called Infinite Regress, 47 suborders of the Prime Directive. British liner Great Eastern, AK-47. Oh my God, of course. The beast number raised to power 47 has sum of digits equal to the beast number. Oh wow, I guess they refer to 666. Auguste Comte coined the word sociology, which appeared for the first time in a footnote of the 47th lesson of the 4th volume of his course of positive philosophy. The sum of the cubes of the digits 47 is curious Cyclops number. MK47 was the first and last Soviet calculator with magnetic cards. 47 is self-conscious. It refers to itself. 47 and 47 are Lucas numbers. Lot 47 is a privately owned film company focused on the acquisition and distribution of American independent films as well as high-profile foreign films. Extant records show that the KGB Bible was translated, oh boy, by 47 scholars, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, and the Euclid Pythagorean proposition, like I mentioned earlier, approximately 47 degrees from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. Isaac Asimov's book of facts. Mosquitoes have 47 teeth. 47 Society, you brought that up earlier.
And an incredible number of references to President Alias. Nice work.
Nice. How did we connect that back now? But, well, here we are.
47 black powder rockets, 47 servants, 16th century, one who attempted his flight to the moon, 47. 47 bones of Lucy skeleton unearthed in 74. You can get lost in this stuff. Crazy. Wow, we're not even halfway through. This is going to be going on. 47 species of some kind of jellyfish. All right, I'm gonna look.
Oh wait, there's the last one I want to read is something about Warburg because I had just mentioned him yesterday on the show as well. I believe German Dr. Otto Heinrich Warburg, who was the one, right? Who said the quote about cancer being unable to exist in an alkaline environment. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize Award 47 times over the course of his career.
Crazy. Wow. 47 teeth in a mosquito. Crazy stuff. Okay. And then Elvis Presley's former bodyguard visits Memphis first time in 47 years.
Maybe we can put it I mean, we don't need to watch it. We basically, there's just one thing I want to point out, basically. So this whole story is, this is Elvis Presley's bodyguard. I don't even know how I came across it. The story may be interesting or not. Wait, stop. And now zoom in. He was signing this chair. Which chair did he sign?
Was Elvis coming to watch?
Interesting.
The 109 or the 19. So just to reinforce this idea that the 19 coding is all over the place. Some people, of course, claim that Elvis Presley today is some kind of small-time pastor somewhere, right?
Living undercover. How hard would that be to believe that living undercover? Europe has the values of the Talmud. Says you are the media.
Yeah, so this is Ursula von der Leyen, who is the president of the European Commission.
It's the PU of
And
the EU, you know.
what I heard through a friend is that basically even the bureaucrats within the European Union or the parliamentarians or whoever, nobody likes her, but somehow she has some very influential backing that basically ensures she was and most likely will remain the president of the European Commission for the foreseeable future. And of course, I'll
Her
point this
fake
out
Hillary
again.
Clinton like thing is just such a knockoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To anybody who does not know, and I'm not sure if this is a statement that is completely factually correct, but there are eerie similarities between the structure of a communistic style government with a commission that is proposing all the laws, like the Politburo, and the European Commission. Because although we have a European Parliament, you have to imagine this, any and all laws are solely drafted by the European Commission, who in turn love it the most if they already get their pre-drafts from organizations like Open Society Foundation. And this is even from the small-time inside sources that I have, is that those were the proposals that were always the most likely to go through. Obviously, it gives the least extra work for the Commission if they already get their drafts handed to them by an NGO. And then you would imagine in a supposedly democratic association like the European Union that the parliament, would propose legislation and all of that. But they are not. All they're allowed to do to this day, as far as I understand, is to, if they muster the strength for it, deny certain proposals and maybe be allowed to adapt proposals. But then again, you have to raise enough votes within that Congress or Parliament. And then also you have a third aspect to the control structure, I want to say, which is called the European Council, I think is the correct translation. There is a separate thing, which is the Council of Europe, but that's another thing. But the European Council is basically the congregation of all the European Union prime ministers. And they again have like special rights and privileges. So even just looking at these three main aspects, European Council, European Commission, and European Parliament, you can clearly see how all the power is collected at the very top. And you almost have a straw man type European Parliament, which has the least amount of privileges and actual capacity to influence legislation. Whereas you would think, again, that a Congress or a Parliament should have the supreme authority. Not even saying that that would fix anything, because just as well as you can bribe or influence a few dozen individuals, you can do the same with a few hundred. And I think also the US Congress doesn't necessarily have the best reputation. But just even on a very obvious technical level, the European Union institutions are so far removed from the populace, it is incredible. And ever since I learned about this many years ago, I was always like, why is nobody even really talking about this? And everyone is pretending, just like you said, with a nice propaganda and so on. Oh, it's so nice, it's so great. But it has nothing to do with sovereignty of states, and much less, of course, sovereignty of individuals. Yes.
It's crazy to see the European Union. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and this tidbit is just from a few years back, and it somehow resurfaced. And I just found it curious that she officially and openly states that Europe has the values of the Talmud. I cannot 100% decode what that would mean exactly, but it's just curious that the president of the European Commission would point that out.
Yeah, let's really quickly listen to her say it, because I mean, it's kind of funny. It's a short little clip here.
Europe is the values of the Talmud, the Jewish sense of personal responsibility, of justice, and of solidarity.
All right. Well, I mean, out of context, I'm sure. So, all right. So then we get into Historia. So I'll try to translate this page. It'll let me. What happened? This Speed reader came on. Oh, that's cool. It does like, how do I do that again? Wait, go back to that.
What's a speed reader?
I don't know. It was a button that just showed up and then just disappeared. Is this it? Speed reader. Boom.
Oh, we can't see it yet.
Oh, okay.
We
It
only
closed the
see
page.
Sonic with the speed.
Well, that's cool. Speedy Sonic here. So I clicked on the top here. There's a little button here that said speed reader. And then it just like took the page and made it into a speed reader page. Just like took all the information from the page. New neat little feature.
Nice. So in terms of, fun ideas from Austria, here it's saying that a new beer manufacturer, it says toilet manufacturer, maybe it's a toilet manufacturer, is producing beer from urine. So I think it's on the one hand, it's kind
supposed
of
to go the other way around. That's crazy.
yeah, on the one hand, it's kind of hilarious. Although from everything I learned so far, there is something to say in terms of the potential remedial qualities of urine consumption, especially your own, in certain cases at least, and
Oh god.
because there's certain compounds and so on. However, here, basically they sell it to the whole of the populace, and I don't know why they would make that a thing. Maybe this is just like a PR stunt or something. I just found it funny, so I put it up there. I mean, who wants to do that, or who wants to drink that? I guess, yeah, it will be like a gag product or something, up to the point when they make it the standard or whatever. I don't know exactly.
Well, I
So-
mean, like it's like Carlsberg or whatever beer. You can make any yeast be edible to, can consume this other waste product and produce beer. You can actually chemically create a yeast that will the yeast will consume the urine and produce something like excrete something that is essentially the same taste as beer. The chemicals can be forced to happen. So it's gonna be this can't follow the purity law, I would assume, because
No, I don't think it's doing it in such a fancy way that you described it. I think they're more just, cleaning it, or what would be the term, filtering it in a certain
they're
way.
just filtering it
Because
out
of
of the
course,
water.
because
Well,
of
what the
course
heck?
you can do that. But if you do that, because the way you're proposing, who knows, maybe there may be more interesting effects or whatever happening. But if you just clean it, then yeah, I mean,
Yeah, there's just
great.
water, I guess.
It's
Okay.
boring, yeah. So
So that's like pretty much what's going on. They're using municipal water, like they're taking your like toilet, like what do you call that? Sewage. They're taking sewage water to make your beer. Well, nothing new. Okay, that's what they've been doing forever, by the way. Unless you're buying like Adolf Coors or something with their mountain spring water, and you better believe in Coors. Oh, okay. Then the Dunkel Commerce Show, investigative podcast.
So what do you think? What could this possibly be about?
It's always forbidden. What's Frohen mean?
Women.
Women are.
But the
It's
word
always forbidden.
before, Freimaurerloge, so this is the Freemason Lodge. This is
Ah.
very, very interesting, because you rarely have these type of, he's not even really a whistleblower, but even just reports. So this investigative podcast I came across because of the whole Pilnacek saga. I had brought this up before. There's a very high level, you would call it, State Department official, Interior Ministry official, who officially died 2 years ago. And only now they're investigating this deeper and all the strange things that occurred there, why certain protocols weren't followed, why his laptop didn't have a password and he was like, important justice or interior ministry official, all kinds of other strange things, why his former wife then chose to destroy his old cell phone with like a, small time flamethrower, however you call that, all these things. So that's why I know this podcast, it's done by a quite, I would say, mainstream journalist, although at least by his own admission, he has never accepted any bribes or anything like that. I may be able to believe that. Anyhow, here he's interviewing his own cousin or something along those lines, who is a former Austrian Freemason. And that is very interesting, because he's on the one hand talking about, regular Masonry and irregular Masonry, and how regular Freemasonry still does not allow women to enter. He's talking about the hypocrisy, because they say, oh, it's brotherhood and this and that. but at the same time, you're excluding a lot of individuals. He's talking about some of the rituals where he himself says over time, they may amount to some type of brainwashing. But also what I find is the most curious thing, especially because recently in various political discussion, this allegation has come up in a, let's say, underhanded way quite a few times, basically always claiming that, oh, Vienna anyhow is run out of the local Freemason lodge. And I was like picking it, of course, listening closely. Usually the political pundits didn't really deeper get into it, of course, but it was always again and again dropped by certain individuals. And I was like, why are they dropping this information? This is very curious. They usually never talk about Freemasonry. And now this podcast comes out, which basically from someone who has been within Freemasonry for many years, he confirms that the current mayor of Vienna is a Freemason, and that partially he may have been elected when there was an internal party struggle within the Socialist Party that is ruling Vienna ever since the Second Republic in 1945 and even before that. They also said that, well, of course, the Freemasons were interested in having one of their own within that organization. So I just think it's kind of cool that you have this more or less official confirmation that, yes, the mayor of Vienna is a Freemason. Not that it's really a big surprise to anyone if I would have had to guess. But
and their
it's still
obsession
cool.
with honey and the symbol of like the beehive, right? Like the bean in the beehive.
Oh yeah, you have that in Vienna as well. You have that on quite a few buildings actually. Maybe even we saw one at some point or several.
Many,
where
yeah.
where you have it on the socialist, block style buildings for public housing. Quite oftentimes you have the bee symbolism embedded on the facade.
I can't find it off the top of my head. I'll try to find one for next time. And then im Biesel im Arc Schauplatz.
Yeah, so this, if you want to see, how would you call it, lower class Austrians hanging out in, I'm not sure if you have those, like diners or something. It's not even a diner. I don't think many people are eating there regularly. Do you have these kind of, like a pub, basically, right?
It's like a
small time pub. Yeah. And these are like the remnants already. You can see by the outside what type of situation you got there. So anyone who wants to see this particular side of Austria, or Vienna even in particular, all these individuals, they have some kind of childhood trauma, or they worked a lot in a very demanding manual labor job. They got disabled. And then, basically they all hang out at these pubs. So
we'll see, like so
that's the non-glamorous side, because we've shown the opera ball before where all the rich and fancy people go, but at the same time you have many of these places, of course, as well.
The Phil Silvers show is a show about a group of veterans from World War II that all hang out in the neighborhood at the local bar pub. And it's very similar kind of idea that they're all sort of retired and have all sorts of problems now, and they're all old, and they used to be contributing members of society, so they're sort of in this sort of post-traumatic stress early retirement, where they just are like boys from the troop that are all still together, but it's similar in a lot of ways.
Pretty much the only difference in our case with Austria is that we don't have so many military disabled veterans anymore, because Austrians, let's say, did not really participate in any large-scale conflicts, of course, for the past decades, due to our official, at least, neutrality status, as mentioned before. But still, of course, you have people being disabled for all kinds of other reasons, or even just working in dangerous jobs, like manual labor jobs where you're building houses and so on. So, 1-2 decades ago, you didn't have all these safety regulations. But it doesn't mean anybody's necessarily really taking care of you now. Or, I don't know. In a way, it's kind of sad. And in another way, you could also say, well, at the very least, they have the pub, they can go drink and so on. It's still probably a better life than in many other places in the world. So,
the InfoWars.
Oh yeah, so here it's kind of, I almost want to say it's kind of cute, this guy, because I only know one time he had a conversation with someone about Earth shape, and you could just tell that this Harrison is his name. He has basically no clue and has not done proper research into anything related to Earth shape studies, let's say. And yeah, here he's just saying, oh, they are, you know, they're latching on to this. The main thing, there is many more videos about this. Let's see. Oh, we have a few more. I mean, I almost want to make a vote in the chat, you know, and ask how many people believe. I'm not
Launching
even sure
giant
what to ask.
dildos into space. I mean, that's cool, right?
How many people believe this was an all-female crew and they actually went beyond whatever thing? Of course, we all know they made a huge show about this. It was also kind of funny because you could see even on the official footage when they were landing. First of all, it's a bit strange that there was no medical personnel, you know, so apparently they knew that they were perfectly safe. And also, of course, that when Jeff Bezos, who was participating in this, was approaching this supposed lander to open the door with some special crowbar type tool he had, even before that, someone on the inside had already opened the door on accident. And what I have to say, I found highly curious. Maybe you can construct something like this, but even on the official footage, when they actually open the door, so when then Jeff Bezos officially goes there with his crowbar screw or something, he opens it and the door swings open like this. So it's like, it seems to have, I'm not sure, it seems to have quite little weight to it, or it doesn't, you know, I would imagine something like with an airplane where I have like a big door, you're moving it slowly, so it's fastened properly. So either this is all made with some super light advanced type of nanocarbon or something that I don't know about, or it looked like a festival tent, basically, you know.
I mean, everyone says Jeff Bezos over plastic surgery wife looks a little suspect, I think, right? Like that's just starting off of like, is it an all-female crew? Okay.
Was his own wife there as well? I don't even know. Which one is his wife?
I don't know if it's his wife or
okay.
it's his girlfriend technically,
Okay.
but he doesn't want to get married again because his wife took like tons of his money and like wasted it because she's evil. But he's evil. It is what it is. But so then this is his girlfriend and she's got a lot of plastic surgery, but that doesn't mean she's a guy. But I mean, people have questioned that before. And then of course there's all everybody's got a transvestigation video, particularly Katy Perry, Russell Brand's ex-wife. I mean, there's, you know, it is what it is. It could be. For me though, like they didn't go to space, right? Like they just kind of like went in a rocket really high into the air and then came back down again. I mean, they did the same thing everyone does, where they
Andreas,
fall,
please
right?
don't be so, how can I pronounce this word properly? Misogynistic? How do you pronounce this? I don't even know. Misogynist?
Misogynistic, indeed, right?
Please don't be so misogynistic. Oh, yes, it's the butterfly. No, that's important, of course.
Yeah, the butterfly logo, and then I mean, come on.
And always she's putting up this, what flower is it again? It's not a lily, a daisy, right?
A daisy.
Look, the daisy flower. And she's going crazy with this daisy. And then even afterwards, you have these interviews, and there is I'm just gonna say, dark-skinned individual, because they're being asked, oh, what did you do? And they're like, yeah, we totally did science. And some people are even wondering if this is supposed to be some type of soft disclosure. That
it totally is an inverted Baphomet head. Yeah.
Oh yeah, everything, even the SpaceX logo, I think, or some mission patch, and it's everywhere. It's like you can't get away from it. It's happened around the Ishtar time when the Pope died, which we're not going to talk about more today. Many
also Klaus Schwab stepping down from the World Economic Forum the same day as the Pope, and now being investigated. He's being investigated by the Forum.
Yeah, I'm sure he's being investigated. I mean, what a joke.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like, it could be that there's like a transition, like the hands are being, you know, they're changing of hands essentially. But
yeah, he's being investigated. He has to give back 10% of all the money he accumulated through his deals, and that's going to be it. Very scared for poor Klaus Schwab.
Well, this is his girlfriend. So yeah, you can think about that, what you want to think about, I guess. Let's go back. So this is the story of David Reimer.
Yeah, so this is interesting. This is apparently an old story about an experiment where there were two brothers, and one of them, I'm not even sure if they were even intersex or something.
No, one guy had a botched circumcision.
Right,
and
exactly.
So they said that Yeah, Dr. Money said like there was not a lot of there's no place for a boy without a penis in this world, so you should raise him as a girl. So they cut off the rest of it, and then he had like he wasn't told his whole life that he was a girl, you know. And then he realized that actually he wasn't really a girl, like it was forced on him. And then he tried to be a boy again. He couldn't become a boy, and he killed himself.
Yes, so let's just leave it at that, a cautionary tale. That's just
Yeah, but it's an important one because this is the basis for all sexual reassignment surgeries, particularly youth sexual reassignment surgeries. They base it on this particular story, and it's interesting because it
pro?
didn't work out. Yeah,
on a pro.
On the pro
What?
side, yeah, because
Wow.
no one. They
Well,
don't really
how much you can invert something.
Indeed, yeah. Historic map, an area map, polar projection, 1946 vintage wall art. Ooh, Mickey Mouse. Very nice.
Oh, wow. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, so here, this is an old world aerial map. I don't have much to say about it. I just always like to throw up interesting maps when I find them. Something to look at. And of course, look at it's a polar projection, you know, go figure.
Somehow I screwed up this page. Really, I'll try that again. And there's more pictures here. Okay, you get a closer look. Right there. And you can imagine what it would look like in your room. Mickey Mouse. Okay. And then this is, if space is real, why are they lying to us?
Yeah, so of course, one of my favorites, Mag, it's the bitter truth. They fool in the masses. So if you want to listen to someone who certainly does not believe in whatever they're playing around with, you can listen to Mag Bitter Truth. He's always making it very fun to look at this type of media. And I think here he's showing quite a few bloopers where you can basically tell, you know, they're attached to some kind of strings, or they have this thing behind them which they use to spin around, all of that good stuff.
Yeah,
Although
but maybe
it has
this
to be
is like
said,
the Maoist propaganda, and it's going to help us actually experience zero gravity. Maybe if everyone believes that there's no gravity, it'll go away and it'll stop oppressing us.
maybe. This is one of my favorite actors, this girl, together with Don Petit. I think they're the best. What to say? E.T.
Dude, this is so suspect. This is the food that they're supposed to have in space.
This is honestly what I always wondered about. And of course, no one asked the question. When you have all these wires going around and all these supposed laptops attached left and right. And I was always, when I saw these, even before I knew anything more about it, I was always like, why do they never properly explain what all these wires are for, what they're actually doing on their laptop, this and that? So the documentation they have, especially for a government program, I would say, is more than insufficient if they want me to believe that they're doing anything relevant there, or that they're doing anything in terms of what they claim they're doing at all. That's just me. You know, here you see all the wires all the time. I think it's hilarious. And of course, the spray hair, which they adopted like 10 years ago, where they started spraying their hair, which I think is completely ridiculous. But okay.
It's probably some cool nanotech, though, that they have that works really well as hairspray. It's like a futuristic product. So they did invent that. When faking space goes horribly wrong, oh, no.
Yeah, because here I really have to wonder, how realistic do you think it is, just by looking at this thing, that this really was a lander? Or maybe they filmed whatever they had to film, and then they just had a balloon and they dropped this thing from like 50 meters down. Because even inside, you know, they have no helmets. They seem super cozy. There is no medics around or anything like that. That's amazing. You know, the advances in space exploration we have, it's super safe and secure if you are the wife of Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, right. Suspects. I mean, it's very much, it reminds me of the Titanic implosion. You know, it's different because it's not in the water. But like, it seems like that should be, if you can't do that, how are you supposed to do this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't even know about that one with Amazon, but yeah.
Yeah. And then this is Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, Katy Perry faking space exposed from They Live True.
Yes, there's just more information. Anyone who's into this, they can check this out. Interesting to see. And this is the original webcast. If people want to see it, I just linked everything there, which I found around that event. People can check it out at their own time. Look at these nice mugshots.
The drag race to space. Okay. And then what I saw in Antarctica.
This is also curious because apparently Neil deGrasse Tyson recently went to Antarctica. You had this Blue Origin mission. You also had a recent flyover over the Antarctic.
And you went with
And I
William
just-
Shatner, who was on the Blue Origin.
Oh, finally,
earlier.
he's there as well. Because it may be or may not be that this is like a continued effort from the final experiment, which I spoke about ad nauseum last year until it finally happened in December. And people were arguing, oh, what type of a big PSYOP, government related or whatever is this?
I love
By now,
I lived there for a minute. That's a good little town.
people may be ending up even on Joe Rogan talking about this. I brought this up. Joe Rogan already has a lighter, which was used in Antarctica supposedly to light a joint there. And the whole, PSYOP going on in the Earth-shaped research community. But yeah, now you have even him going there, and I don't know. I didn't even listen to all whatever he said, but people can check it out if they want to listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson and what he says he saw in Antarctica.
Oh my God. I'll have to check it out, but it's really hard to listen to this guy talk. We'll give it a shot. Okay. And then Schwabenland.
So this is interesting because Neuschwabenland is supposedly or officially one area in Antarctica, which I guess was officially named by the Germans because it's a German name. It's kind of curious now that I think of it that they kept the name. How did they rename it? Because wouldn't that be like, how can you allow there to be a Nazi named thing in Antarctica still? But what I found so interesting here is about this ship. I randomly saw this in a chat room somewhere on YouTube. And because here they say it was a former cargo ship owned by the German Lufthansa. However, previously it had a different name. If you scroll down just a little bit, it should say it. I'm checking myself 1 second. Right. So it's if you scroll up a little bit, the second paragraph, or you have a different type of formatting here now. Did you switch to English? No, you're still on the German side.
I was just trying to use...
This is fine. This is good enough. Just scroll down a bit where it says Frachter, so freight ship. And then it says the ship was originally constructed in 1925 under the name Schwarzenfels. And Schwarzenfels literally means black rock, which again reminds me of not only black rock, but also Rupes Nigra, this supposed potentially existing or not mythical mountain at the North Pole. And I just find it very curious that they would name this ship Black Rock, basically. It's always about the black rock. I mean, this may even relate. Isn't that also part of these Masonic rituals where you have like a black ashlar or something? The black square rock. So anyhow, always everything seems to relate back to black rock. I find that very interesting.
The 2001 monolith in the Space Odyssey, the black rock, the monolith. Okay, and then 3 hour, 28 commercial pilots confirming.
Yeah, this is like a old time classic. I have no idea where I initially saw this many years ago, but if you ever want to listen to pilots and what they say about how they actually do their flight paths and how they ascend or descend in terms of flying, I can very much recommend listening to it and making up your own mind whether that can work on the supposed NASA globe model. To me, it wouldn't make sense, but maybe to somebody else it does. And it's, of course, always cool to listen to people that, actually are flying these things and they have some critical thinking skills and they relay their expertise and information. Because, of course, you don't have that too often because from what I understand, at least commercial airline pilots and so on, anyhow, military is under all sorts of NDAs. I'm not sure regularly how openly these individuals are allowed to talk about it, but sometimes you get people talking about it and what they say is very interesting, especially, of course, military-related personnel or individuals that have a lot of flight experience. They can tell you something about what model they use in order to fly safely and properly.
We can manipulate time and space. I remember the White House said this the other day. It was great.
This is at minute 138 from Hillsdale College. This is this guy. I don't even know exactly who he is, but he's basically saying, yes, we've had, here it's in the CC. We can listen to it if you want. It's only 1 minute.
Yeah, let's do that.
Technology is on the engineering benches today, but most Americans and most in Congress have not had time to really look deeply at what's going on here. But I've had the benefit of 33 years of studying and becoming
33.
friends with these engineers and these scientists. This technology can be built today with technology that is not developmental to deliver any human being from any place on planet Earth to any other place in less than an hour, to deliver Wi-Fi from space where you never need a cell tower to connect, to deliver energy from space where you never have to plug your phone in and it trickle charges and you can use that energy over time.
Interesting. That's all he's gonna get.
Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to point that out. I think that's interesting, and I heard from different sources already that we do have things like, for lack of a better term, teleportation and all of that. I want to see a smart civilian application for all of this. Well, then maybe...
Oh, it'll be like avoid commute to your job.
Yeah, exactly. That's all
That's
your
what they're
social
using it
credit
for now.
score. That's all your social credit score will allow. Of course, you can teleport, but you can only teleport literally to your job pod, and then you can teleport back to your home pod.
Yeah.
That's what
Or
will
just
be
from
allowed.
the work building. You can go from your apartment to your, hallway where the elevator would be. It will take you right to London. You work in the building in London, and then like there's a hall, and you go from there to the building in Los Angeles. You just jump back and forth.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to exit if you don't belong
No,
to the proper
you can
class.
only go through the portals. You can't go through the front door. And then Tagu Academy.
Yes,
Pretty
we
cool
brought
stuff.
this up before. I'm bringing it up again because this is English translated from a local independent researcher researching underground access sites. And also because we spoke about Klosterneuburg, the place where I was as well, where they do say there is something akin to a old world teleportation room, most likely activated through some sort of resonance. So this would, especially if what this guy previously said is true, would give credence to the idea that whatever technology there is there, they actually either they salvaged it or they already had it and just upgraded it, and this is in use by at least a certain class of individuals. And all we have, of course, is the remains of these caverns. Yes, I'm really curious how this will pan out and if the general population will ever be allowed to use this technology freely. But the bigger chance we have, I believe, is if more people are investigating these things, looking at it, trying to understand it, maybe trying to re-engineer it. Because if anything, I would imagine at least, this would force the hand of whoever is guarding the technology to at least start releasing variants of it if more and more people know that this is a real thing or it is possible. And of course, ideally, I would wish that everyone in their own backyard can build something like this. I'm not sure if that's going to be feasible or not, but we'll see. But anyways, there is the connection again between underground things, Hollow Earth or whatever you want, and the teleportation tech and modern technology.
Interesting stuff. And then, of course, mine unveils real life they live glasses video.
Yeah, I put this up because somehow I stumbled across this diacetyl is what they call it, which supposedly was a type of coloring they used in the early 20th century for variants of glasses. But then now some people are claiming you can actually see, what should I say, into some variant of an astral realm or into some type of different electromagnetic spectrum with these glasses. Then they were banned, kind of, but I found sites online where even today you can buy these lenses and you can buy glasses. So
I
it
gotta get
seems
some.
it's
Send me
not
the link.
completely illegal.
I gotta try
Yes.
it out. I doubt it's like as cool as people say, but I'd like to try it just anyway. I mean, it could be. So I think it has been used in night vision and things as well. So there is something because it retains.
I
and
also
captures
saw
light.
some comments where people said that when military was using particular types of night vision, maybe not exactly this one, but similar ones, that they also were seeing all kinds of strange things. And this may explain some of the, military encounters of a third kind stories. If they simply had access to different type of vision or electromagnetic spectrum, then I'm sure you can see all kinds of things. And especially in the war zone, if there is something like, ghosts and etheric entities, I'm sure there would be some scary ones hanging around these areas where individuals are hurting each other. I can only imagine.
Ghosts. Okay. And so that is the space section. I think
that
means...
So now basically that means if you want to go on for 20 more minutes, it's not so much. We're going to cut the YouTube stream. So yeah, before we do that, wait, let's see how we're going to do that in a fun and smart way.
Guys, if you want to go continue the stream, we're going to go over to Rumble right now, and we're going to have, just a little bit of off the cuff stuff that's not for, till antitrust is trustable kind of thing. By YouTube.
Exactly.
Oh, are we like off already of YouTube? Do we go?
No, we're gonna play some music in between. My channel, thank you everyone. And we're gonna remove your channel. Thank you everyone.